should I feel discouraged? Why should the shadows come? Why should my heart be lonely and long for heaven and home? When Jesus is my portion, my constant friend is He. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know He watches me. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know He watches me. I sing because I'm happy. I sing because I'm free, for His eye is on the sparrow, and I know He watches me. Let not your heart be troubled. His tender words I hear, and resting on His goodness, I lose my doubt and fear, and draw the path He leadeth. But one step I may see, His eye is on the sparrow, and I know He watches me. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know He watches me. Whenever I am tempted, whenever clouds arise, when songs give place to sighing, when hope within me dies, I draw Him closer to me. From care He sets me free, for His eye is on the sparrow, and I know He watches me. For His eye is on the sparrow, and I know He watches me. I sing because I'm happy. I sing because I'm free, for His eye is on the sparrow, and I know He watches over me.
For those who had the privilege of knowing personally Brother S.T. Bogan, it doesn't surprise you that he chose that song to start his service off. He was one of the most joyous individuals that I've had the privilege of meeting, and I only knew him in the latter part of his life when he knew much pain and much discomfort, but kept that positive, glorious attitude every time that I was around him. I saw him that way. We come together to mourn his passing, but we also come together to celebrate his homegoing and to celebrate a life that has been lived and lived well. S.T. Sidney Thomas, by the way, that's the first time I ever found out what S.T. stood for, but S.T. Bogan, Jr. of here in Norman, went home to be with his Lord on March the 1st. He was born May 11th, 1918, to Sidney Thomas Bogan, Sr. and Mabel Taylor Bogan in Gasoline, Briscoe County, Texas. I could say the metropolis of gasoline, probably Briscoe County, Texas. He was preceded in death by the love of his life, his wife Esther, 58 years of marriage. April 1st, 2004, here in this sanctuary, we gathered together for her homegoing. He so deeply loved Esther, and they had a wonderful life together. His brother William Litt Bogan and his wife Norma, and his wife Norma and his brother Howard, who died in infancy. He is survived by his son Doug and his wife Diana of Houston, daughters Patricia Wong and her husband Walter of Federal Way, Washington, and Dory Giroux and her husband Michael of Norman, grandchildren Brad Bogan of San Antonio, Lacey Bogan of Houston, Kelly Wong and Kevin Wong, both of Milton, Washington, Raymond Giroux and Elizabeth Giroux, both of Norman. He's also survived by his brother, Harold Barney Bogan, whom we will hear from in just a moment, his wife Fussy of Nacogdoches, Texas, and sister Betty Gaddy and her husband Gerald of Fort Mill, South Carolina, numerous nieces and nephews. Following his graduation as valedictorian from Kitty Texas High School, he attended West Texas Teachers College, now known as West Texas State University. He was inducted in the United States Army. He was honorably discharged in June 1945 after being in the South Pacific for 32 months, where he saw combat action in New Guinea, New Brittany, and the Philippines. Those experiences impressed on him the preciousness of life, and he was determined from then on to live a life worthy in the eyes of his Lord. Following graduation with an accounting degree from Oklahoma A&M University, now Oklahoma State, in 1948, he and Esther settled in Oklahoma City, where he went to work as chief accountant at Mercury Oil and Refinery. In 1956, they moved to Big Spring, Texas, where he continued his career with Cosden Petroleum, where he became controller. It was during this time in Big Spring that he passed the exam to become a certified public accountant. He and Esther remember these years as some of the most enjoyable of their life together, and they invested themselves in the activities of Doug and Pat and were blessed with Dory's arrival. He began working for American Petrofina Incorporated of Dallas in 1963. The family moved to Richardson, Texas in January of 1964. He became vice president and controller in April of 1976, the position which he served in until his retirement on June the 1st, 1983. In Richardson, the family were active members of Richardson Heights Baptist Church, where they blessed beyond measure by their participation and priceless friendships they formed, some of which continue even to this day. And for the remainder of their lives, even as they moved to Norman to be near their daughter. In Norman, they became members here at Bethel Baptist Church. Their lives were blessed beyond description by this church, particularly by Dolores Livesay, who handles our shut-in visitation and ministry regularly until his death, and by Harvey Webb, a faithful friend from our church that became extremely close to ST. I think those two guys loved on each other very, very much right up until the time he left to be with the Lord. He also received cards and letters from our ladies' ministry, the Bloom Ministry, and visits from our senior adult ministry, Ross Pruitt, and was kind of wasn't here on Sunday, but was very much a part of our Bethel family, very much a part of our Bethel family. S.T. was many things to many people. He was loving, devoted husband to Esther, proud father of his children, showing interest in and affirmation of their lives right up to the end. He was Dee to his 6 grandchildren, and Uncle S.T. to his numerous nieces and nephews, and respectful Mr. Bogan to those who worked with him in his long career in business. The family wishes to express their gratitude to Carter Home Health and Hospice for their excellent compassionate care they gave him during these days. Really easy to pick a passage of Scripture to read at S.T.'s obituary. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want, literally from the Hebrew, I shall not lack what I need. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the quiet waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. And even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. You have anointed my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever.